Take one. Hi, welcome into the center. Thanks for bringing in what appears to be an abstract of a material science paper. And so what we're going to try to do is to reconfigure it to fit a model that can better show the point of need of this project. And to do that, we kind of look at the rhetorical moves that's happening in abstracts. And there's a couple of common ways that we can do about it. But what I'd like to start out doing is to sort of inhabit the role of a reader on this and to sort of ask you some questions about how you can see yourself as a reader and what you think is important to readers. So right off the bat, you start out with, we propose a routability-driven analytical placer that aims at distributing pins evenly. So what are you trying to tell the reader there? Okay, so what you're saying here is that this is what we've done in our lab. And so it looks to me that you're representing a new method of doing something that previously maybe has been done differently. So what I would question you is, why is distributing the pins evenly necessarily a problem space that needs explored? And why is this a particularly significant thing for your task space here? And this goes into like the sort of problem solution space. Is first we identify the problem space and then we occupy that space with a novel solution, or not necessarily a novel solution, but one that maybe fits the problem space a little better. You could even adapt other solutions to it, which I don't know if that's what's happening here, but it seems that it's a new method. So we need to appropriately scale that to fit this abstract. So the first question I would have is, why is this significant? And that does one thing for the reader right off the bat, is it puts them in the context of what your project is. And that's very helpful because you want them to follow along with what's going on later on. You want them to, by the time you tell them that, hey, this is a new thing, we've established the significance, we've described sort of how maybe pins have been distributed before, so you're looking at maybe how something is currently done or how it has historically been done, what the status quo is, as you can see from point 2 on our sheet, the handout that I've given you for novelty moves. The second one is to describe the status quo, so you're still trying to sort of occupy that problem space there. And then for the solution space, you've sort of artfully done that here, as you've described how you've done this, a routability-driven analytical placer. And you explain, hey Leica, cut it out. Time out, my dog is going nuts. Okay, go on, get. Okay, time in. So how it is currently done is what you've got going on here. The results are happening here, which is great. You're showing progress, which is good. But I'm not quite sure what the gap is here, what the real point of need of this project is. You later on described too that the better routing results is one of the goals of this project, which is good. Is that you're describing the goals right up front in the abstract. And abstract, if you're a science person, you know that if you're reading a ton of abstracts, you want the goals right up front. You want people to know why you're doing the project. And I don't quite get this as a casual reader, a non-technical reader, and even a technical reader may not have this particular context available to them unless they're really in your particular lab or your particular field, or they're really involved in your work. So you definitely need to, right off the bat, establish that problem space. You need to establish the significance of that, and you could go about that a couple of different ways, like we had described. Talk about how it's currently done and what the downfalls of that are. That is a very good way to start that. We'll move to sort of the second part of this, which is like the middle of your abstract. And time out. I don't know what this person's goals are for the session because I'm just talking with myself at this point. So I'm assuming that they just want to just improve this. And so I would probably start out by asking them, what are your goals for the session? What are your goals and objects for this particular piece of work? What's the end goal here? Are you trying to get it published? If so, take a look at what people in the journals that you're trying to target have done, look at their abstracts, try to map out these rhetorical moves. This might be a time for us to, hop on a laptop, go to that journal space, and then take a look at abstracts and see if we can find that CARS model in there or these novelty moves. Okay, time in. So the middle of the paper is we've got something going on where it says as a result, but as a reader, I'm looking for a causal relationship here to build up to the as a result. So as a result of what? The previous sentence, the moreover for mixed size circuits, we adopt a scaled smoothing method to cope with fixed macro blocks. And this fixed macro block seems to be a problem space that you need to inhabit. So you might, choose to reconfigure that a little bit and move it up into talking about the problem space in terms of a fixed macro block. Time out. This is where I would ask them what a fixed macro block is. Time in. And so I'm looking for this causal relationship, and I don't quite get that, right? So if you're thinking about cause and effect here, you've got the effect, but I don't quite see the cause as a reader yet. And for abstract readers, certainly you're going to want this pretty clear, clear only if known, right? And then moving on to the next sentence here, or the next part of that sentence, is that implying that the optimization of global placement solution is more accurate and that global placement solution resembles a legal solution more. The question I would have then is more from what? What other types of solutions are there? Why is the legal solution a preferable one? I don't know. That's something that maybe is explicated in the paper, but it needs to be front-loaded here in the abstract too, because this right here sounds to me as a reader to be your most important or central key takeaway from this. So that may be something that you want to ask yourself, sort of, well, so what? That's kind of the so what test, right? Is, okay, now that we've got this, so what do we make of it? What does this mean ultimately for the project? What does it mean to fill that point of need in the problem space that should have been defined earlier in the abstract? Before moving on to identifying what your particular solution is to fill that problem space. And this may not, when I say problem space, again, I keep using that word over and over again, hoping that'll sink in, is it could also mean a gap in the research, right? So the problem space could be like, we don't have a way to distribute pins evenly right now, or the way that we currently distribute pins evenly is inefficient, or however you're describing efficiency. Is not a very good way to do it. It's not a very mechanically sound way. It wastes energy, so on and so forth. This is a context that you need to build for your reader, so that they can hold that context throughout the rest of your abstract. And then when they finally get into your paper, they understand sort of where you're coming from, and that helps them create a little bit more resonance with the paper as they're reading through it. So these 4 steps again that we can go over is just to create this research space by explaining the significance, or to describe the point of need, the context of your particular work, and to maybe describe how it's currently done, define these terms early. Secondly, to describe the state of knowledge, where the state of the art is, and then once we've identified the significance and the state of the art, or the state of knowledge, or the status quo as it is in the novelty handout, then we can talk about identifying the gap, the point of need again, and how we fill that gap with your method, which you've done here. So this is, time out, 8 minutes and 30 seconds of discussion of me talking at the student. So I would assume that there would be a lot of space for question and answer up front, and then also around this sort of discussion, right? But as a video, you only see me talking to you. There's no correspondence going on here. So I hope that we can talk about the types of questions that we can ask about this particular piece of work, and perhaps maybe somebody could play the role of the student in responding to these questions. I hope that's a good take, and let's talk about it. Thanks.